I had all intentions of filming this down by the lake, but no, I'm in the parking lot after having returned a Redbox movie, and, well, let's just carry on, because this is all just irrelevant. It's too windy to be filming outside, and there's too much going on at home, so I can't film at home. But I wanted to mention a few more underappreciated authors that I think you guys should check out. Follow me on Goodreads. You know that I'm currently reading Cull by this one author. And this one author, he has been said to have been the father of the sword and sorcery subgenre. He's the father, the creator of Conan the Barbarian. And he is Robert E. Howard, who I think is very much underappreciated. I don't understand how, like, everybody, you know, is so in love and enthralled with Tolkien, but Robert E. Howard was around before Tolkien, and his stories are just as good, if not better. If you're really into fantasy genre, I would definitely check out Robert E. Howard's works. He was a tragic guy, and a lot of his stories were written in pulp form. They were featured in this magazine back in the 1920s and 1930s called Weird Tales or Strange Tales. And he created Conan the Barbarian, which got Arnold Schwarzenegger pretty famous because that was the starring role that made pretty much his film career. And they just redid Conan the Barbarian. I think his name is Jason something Momoa, maybe. Something, I can't recall that actor's name, but he, you know, starred as Conan in a film not too long ago. Not only did Robert E. Howard write about fantasy genres like Conan and Cull and a few others, but he wrote about, like, the early colony days with a character he called Solomon Kane. I've yet to read those books. They're on my to-be-read list. And he also wrote, if you're into Indiana Jones, he wrote this one character into these stories called El Borak. Those are kind of interesting. They weren't my thing per se, but if you like Indiana Jones, you might like those books. And also, the interesting thing I like about Robert E. Howard was that he really, really liked Lovecraft. And he went and he created and added to the Cthulhu mythos by writing his own Cthulhu stories, which Lovecraft approved of. And I think that's pretty damn cool in itself, you know. I guess Robert E. Howard sent him correspondence, like he sent him a couple of letters, you know, asking him if he could use these characters that he had created, and he said, yeah, he was down with it. So that's just another reason to check out Robert E. Howard. Those are some other books that are on my to-be-read list. I haven't read any of the Robert E. Howard's Cthulhu stories yet. I hope to get to them sometime. And that Robert E. Howard had a sad and tragic life. I guess he dealt with, like, mental illness during his life, and he tragically died at a young age. He only lived to be 30. He died in 1936 because he committed suicide. I know probably for some of you, my viewers, you're probably like a teenager and you're like, wow, he was pretty old, he was only 30. 30 isn't really not that old, and he was pretty young. Like, I'm sure if he would have lived to be an old man, he would have wrote a lot more fantastic stories. But he still wrote, like, a ton. He's got a nice body of work. Like, he started writing, like, when he was young, and there's just so many stories. Like, he was so dedicated to writing. I think he's worthy of, you know, still being... The final author I want to mention is Kurt Vonnegut. Yes, he was a junior, but a lot of people don't mention junior, but he's Kurt Vonnegut. And you may have heard that he wrote Slaughterhouse-Five, which is a science fiction novel about time travel and World War II. But you can't restrict Vonnegut to just science fiction. And it's kind of like hard to describe his writings. because he has such a unique style of writing that I would have to say that it's best labeled as Americana. I want to label him as being an Americana author just based on the fact that if you read his stories, the way he details and like mentions like details of different times and places, he writes very good about the 1940s and 1950s. Like very in-depth details. It makes you feel like you're almost like right there. His books that are my personal favorite, I would say it's a 5-star book, is Breakfast of Champions. Breakfast of Champions will take you to a time period that was a much simpler time period, and it'll put a smile on your face and make you laugh. He can be super silly in this book. Like I recall like one paragraph reading in this book, Breakfast of Champions, where he was talking about a beaver, and he's talking about the sexual connotations of the word beaver, but then he draws this little cartoon beaver on the page with the text, and you can't help but just laugh when you see that. He just has a way of being comical, but yet serious at the same time. And this is another reason why I really love Kurt Vonnegut's works. No, I have not read everything by Vonnegut. He's another one who has such a big body of works. I've probably read maybe half, maybe a quarter of all the things he's written. I really enjoyed his short stories, though. They were also like published in magazines and newspapers, like Howard. But they have been compiled into novels, and I think that they're something worthy of checking out. They're along the lines of like classics like Catcher in the Rye and The Great Gatsby and all that, and I think that they're worthy of attention in the booktubing community. I know I'm just starting to see other booktubers start to talk about Kurt Vonnegut, like, you know, they're just now discovering him. But he is one of my personal favorites. An old friend in high school introduced me to Kurt Vonnegut, and I don't regret it. He's definitely one of the better writers out there, and one of my personal faves. So I'm only going to mention 2 underappreciated authors this time around. I don't know that I will do another one of these videos. I kind of feel like I've mentioned all the ones that people don't really know about, that should know about. But if I do come across some others, or if I recall or think of some others, I will definitely make another one of these videos. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like to share it with your friends. You know the routine. Peace, guys.